Hey everyone, and welcome to our Italian-inspired virtual cooking class. I am so glad you guys made it. I am Charlotte, and with me as my moderator and friend, Scott Tompkins.
Host, fact checker. I'm the guy who's just going to be here chatting it up.
Chatting it up.
While you do your thing.
So glad you're here. Today we are doing some of my favorite recipes. So we are going to do a basic pasta dough, which I'm very excited about. In your words, Scott, I'm very excited about it.
It's a very fancy pasta dough.
We're going to make an olive oil cake, and we're going to make an arugula pesto. And I spent a lot of time and energy thinking about the recipes that I wanted to do for an Italian-inspired menu. And I thought, well, maybe we'll do bolognese, or maybe we'll do, ravioli, all these different things. But what I really thought is that I think that we should go back to basics and we should learn about pasta dough, and I should teach people at home how easy it is to make pasta dough from scratch, but also to hand roll it. And I know that people think that like making pasta dough is really, really hard and you have to have a special apparatus or machine to do it, or attachment for your KitchenAid, but you really don't. All you need is 2 hands, some good flour, and a rolling pin, and you got it, and some boiling water.
Because we all know that you can get pasta at any H-E-B.
You can.
A plethora of fantastic pasta, so it's good to stretch a little bit, learn something new, right?
But it's fun. It's fun to make it from scratch, I thought, and I thought it'd be, we'll dispel all of the myths about how hard it is to make, and we'll do it from scratch together. So I think it'll be really fun. We're going to start with our olive oil cake because we want to get this guy into the oven, and then go into our basic pasta dough. Olive oil cake is very, very simple. So again, when I was thinking about the recipes that I was doing, and I was trying to be really intentional, I thought to myself, for 1 hour, I'm going to teach people how to make an olive oil cake, a pesto, and pasta. And where do I really want to spend the time? So I said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a hack. I'm going to do a kitchen hack, a chef hack, and I'm going to use a cake mix, ta-da, to make our olive oil cake. And then I thought to myself, uh-oh, wait a minute, danger, danger. Am I really going to do this? Is this a bad thing? So I went back and forth, and I decided, nope, we're going to do it, because I really want to spend a lot of time on our pasta dough. And then I asked. So I asked some chefs. I asked some pastry chefs, 2 pastry chefs, and I said, is it okay to use a cake mix when making a cake or an olive oil cake? And I got their blessing. It was sanctioned. They said okay, and they said, why would you do something that's harder? Why wouldn't you let somebody else do all the work, right? And so Betty Crocker, Duncan Hines, H-E-B, all of the people that design these cake mixes have done all of the legwork, all of the food science around it, and everything that comes in this pouch right here is designed for success. So alas, here we are. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this as our base. So this is our flour and our leavener and some sweetener. And we are going to use a really high quality olive oil. I'm going to use a Rustico olive oil to give us that really rich, like olive flavor. And then we're going to enhance it with a little more citrus.
I noticed you're going to pour that into a borosilicate bowl.
You love that.
And you're also going to whisk said cake in the borosilicate bowl.
I am. You don't even need to bust out the mixer for this. We're going to go so easy. So they did all the hard work for you. They tested it. They said, okay, how can we do this? What can we add to it? How can we mess it up so that the people at home can make a cake like all the time, every time, without fail? And so here we are. All right, so cake mix, yellow cake mix, that's what I'm using. I'm going to do 2 eggs. I like to do eggs at room temperature. Thoughts? How does everybody feel about that? Tompkins, do you use room temperature eggs?
Always.
Right?
Always, always. I prefer them. Anytime you're going to make or bake anything, it's easier just to leave them on the counter while your butter softens or whatever. All
right, so I'm going to add 8 ounces of water. So I got 3 eggs, cake mix. Basically, I'm using the directions on the back of the box. It doesn't get any easier than that. And instead of using like a canola or a vegetable oil, I am using olive oil.
Extra virgin
so
olive
I
oil.
do recommend using an extra virgin olive oil. They say like, are all olive oils created equal? I'm gonna use about ½ a cup. It's kind of like, when it comes to olive oil, this is what I think. All bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon, right?
That's fair.
Okay,
Yeah,
so Rustico unfiltered olive oil. I actually am a huge fan of this. It has a really, really, really vibrant green color, and the oil comes from the Castelvetrano olive, correct, Tompkins?
That is correct, which is why it's such a buttery olive oil. If you like a really buttery olive oil,
Yes.
it's really, really buttery.
So I love those olives, and if you're not familiar with those olives, they're a very, very vibrant green. I'm gonna add just a drizzle of lemon olive oil to give it a little more of that citrus flavor. We're gonna do the zest of, here it is, a navel orange. So we're making enhancements, right?
So that's the thing, you have, just like you said, like you're using a box cake mix, which is great. So if you wanted to do everything from scratch tonight, you could definitely go to our website, go to heb.com/recipes.
I have a
There's
recipe on there.
There's a scratch olive oil cake if you want to go crazy. But what I love about this is you are adding the olive oil, you're switching it up, you're adding zest from both, so you really are enhancing and changing the entire profile of the
whole
cake,
dynamic.
the flavor and everything.
Yes. All right, I'm also adding some grapefruit zest. It's like my favorite scent. I read in like a women's health magazine that
really
the scent
really
of grapefruit
refreshing.
makes you appear younger to others. So ladies.
Wait, the smell of it?
Yeah.
So if you have the, if I was to spray this on my skin, somebody would go, wow,
you appear younger. I guess it's so fresh. I don't know, I read it in like a Cosmo.
Guess who's gonna
Facts.
buy a bunch of stock in grapefruits? This guy.
I love the way they smell. They do smell fresh.
It is, it's very
right.
citrusy.
All right, there it all goes. I've got my pan right here. I've got my oven preheated to 350. Y'all are gonna have dinner like on the table and ready to go. All right, we're just gonna mix this up. And you can see in the bowl like the color of that olive oil. I do recommend, like I said, using an extra virgin olive oil as opposed to like a light olive oil. And if you've seen light olive oil like on the shelf, it does come from olives. The difference is when you get an extra virgin olive oil, this is a cold press, the very first press, as if they were to take this grapefruit right here and squeeze the juice, that would be, and you drank it, that would be the equivalent, right? When you come into things like light olive oil, those are maybe a second or a third press. And
sometimes
they use
mixed with other oils.
Mixed with other oils,
cooked.
they'll use heat or like a chemical agent to extract that oil. There's nothing wrong with them. They're not bad for you in any way. They're just, they don't have the same fruity flavor that an extra virgin would have.
You can tell the difference for sure. Otherwise, it just kind of tastes, you won't taste much of the olive, which is the whole point in the
Especially when it comes to this cake, right? But if I was going to cook with it, I see no problem with it. All right, so we're just going to mix this. I know the recipe probably says 2 or 3 minutes, but you don't even need to do that. We just want to make everything come together.
So we begin with the ending, the sweet ending.
Always. All right, we're
Gotta
going
get it in the oven.
put this over here. I'm going to spray my pan. If you want, nothing wrong with putting a little parchment in the bottom, but this guy has those, see those little ridges in the bottom? Those
That's a
help.
great pan.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a K&T.
It is a
by
K&T.
HEB.
I'm glad you noticed, Tompkins.
It's a loaf pan.
It's a loaf
We've got
pan.
you covered.
You could do this cake in any shape you like. If you wanted to do a bundt pan, do a bundt pan. If you wanted to do a, you know, cupcakes, why not just follow the baking directions on the back of the box? So easy. This is so easy.
I kind of like the olive oil cupcake thing. That'd be a good little.
Why not? It'd be really cool for serving.
I feel like this may just be me assigning a thing to it, but I feel like when you're doing olive oil cake, you kind of have to have it in a pan and not, I don't know if olive oil cake, like in a tiered cake, is like, that's not what I think of when I think of olive oil cake. I think it's more like a loaf, kind of like, more like a banana bread.
Like banana bread, for sure. All right, I'm just gonna take this guy like so, and I am going to put him in the oven for 40 minutes.
Or until a toothpick entered into the center pulls out clean.
Oh my gosh,
that
was
took
so
the words out
good.
of
It was
your-
very natural. You did a really great job with that. All right, so I'm gonna put all of this stuff away, and we're gonna get down
lot of
to
rehearsal.
like the main attraction here. That's what I like to call it. We're gonna make the pasta dough.
I feel like, look, it's, what's today? Thursday night? It's
Thursday
like
night.
a perfect night for pasta.
Perfect night.
If you're making lasagna, you got a bolognese, whatever, this is a great
This
addition.
I love it, and it's like we're in the summertime, and this fresh pasta, I love it. All right, so some of the fundamentals of a pasta, right? So we want flour. We're going to use eggs, salt, and sometimes you could use olive oil, right? For this particular recipe, we're not going to use olive oil. We're going to rely on the fat from the egg yolks and the water content from the white or the protein, or the white part of the egg. The flours
Let's talk
that I'm
about
using.
the flour.
The flour.
Flour.
He's excited. Okay, so the two flours that I have in front of me, I have one right here, which is a 00 flour, right? So a 00 flour is a wheat
my
flour,
favorite.
and this is his favorite flour. And what the 00 refers to in this, in the name, is the mill grade. And what I mean by the mill grade is the fineness or the texture of the flour itself. So this is a very, very, very fine flour. And why is that important? It's important because the finer the mill, the less water or moisture needed to create or produce glutens. And glutens are the protein in wheat that are gonna give us that structure and strength, right? Which is really important, especially when we're making pastas, right? The other flour that we're using right here, this is semolina flour, right? So this is a coarser grind flour. It comes from durum wheat. It is wheat. It looks, the yellow color and the coarse grind makes it sort of confusing. It's often confused with cornmeal.
Yeah.
And I made that mistake. I put them in my pantry, both of them, and I actually tried to make pasta the other day with
polenta out of your, or
with
pasta out of your cornmeal.
Fine ground cornmeal. I was like, this is not right. So yeah, so durum wheat, and the color, the golden color, actually comes from carotenoids, and carotenoids are the compound that make sweet potatoes orange and carrots orange, right? So it also gives it this beautiful yellow color. Incidentally, it's also what gives egg yolks some of that color too,
Carotenoids,
that yellow
which
color.
gives the
right?
fresh made pasta that beautiful
Right. So
color.
if you can't find 00 flour, you can absolutely use all-purpose flour. It doesn't have the same fine fine grain or mill grade. It's not as fine. Think of it like powdered sugar and regular granulated sugar. All right. So our semolina would be like our coarser ground sugar, like granulated sugar, and then this would be like confectioner sugar, right? But all-purpose flour will do just fine. All right. So to get started, we are going to start with our flours, and we're going to put them down on the board. And I used my measuring cup.
So super important also is what you're about to show everybody
Yeah.
is the well method, the classic well method, which is
Yes.
putting a well in the middle of the flour, which will show you.
Yes.
You can also do this in a stand mixer with your
Absolutely.
with the hook attachment.
Yep.
That's my lazy way. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
So the way I'm measuring the flour actually, or the way you measure the flour actually makes a difference. If I were to take my scoop and dig it into the bag of flour, what I'm doing is I'm actually like compressing the flour into the cup, and I'm removing all of the air, so I actually get like a more dense pack. So that could change the outcome of our pasta, right? So it would be we're actually putting more than a cup in there. So I'm actually just spooning it in like that. I did weigh out these ingredients for everybody, so it's about 4.6 ounces per cup, right? So that's really what we're looking for. And I'm going to do equal parts semolina and what's that one? 00.
I feel like semolina helps the pasta grab onto the sauce a little more.
It does, and so traditionally pastas in Italy are made with semolina flour, but you can 100% do them with all-purpose and or the semolina, right? So there we go. Now I'm going to mix them together, and like I said, or like Tompkins said, we are doing the well method. So I'm just going to sort of mix them up like this. Now I know that people have probably seen the well method, you know, like pictures of it or whatever, and typically that people crack the eggs into the well. What I like to do is crack my eggs into a bowl and put them on the side, and then add them in. I kind of whisk them up a little bit. Also, when you're doing this, you want to make sure that your well is way bigger than you think you're going to need. Everybody wants to make this like really tall, proud volcano. Don't do it, right? And it's okay if you see a little bit of the cutting board underneath, no big deal. I'm gonna get my eggs.
Flour will soak it up.
Right, so Tompkins, you don't put salt in your pasta dough, do you?
I don't, and that's only because when I first was learning to make pasta dough, I had to make it every day, and the chef always thought that the salt will toughen the dough, and so they always left it out. And you're supposed to season the pasta water like
the ocean, and we'll get to that in a minute.
So yeah.
Okay, so in my bowl, I have my, I've got my eggs, so I've got 3 egg yolks and 3 egg whites. I'm gonna grab another bowl really quickly because what I actually need is my 3 egg yolks. So see how I'm doing this? You could crack your eggs individually and do like the back and forth method, but this is really the easiest way for me to do it. Like that.
Separating the egg yolks.
Separating the egg yolks.
There's a million ways to make homemade pasta. Obviously, you can
Yeah.
just do it with water too if you wanted to, but the egg is such a classic way to do it. I love just straight yolks too. You can do all yolks, out all that fat, which gives that
Oh, you
really
absolutely
rich.
can. Okay, so I've left a little bit of egg white on the side, and those are the egg whites that we are going to, that I'm going to reserve. And the reason why I'm reserving these egg yolks is that if for some reason my pasta dough I over-measured or I didn't measure my flours correctly, we're going to have to add some moisture back into it, right? And instead of having to add olive oil or water, I want to use the protein from the egg, so I'm just going to reserve it. You may need it, you may not. It's not going to hurt, right? All right, I'm gonna grab a fork.
Whisk away.
I'm gonna whisk away. Not too much water, or I mean not too much air, just a little bit, just a little mix to sort of incorporate. I'm gonna go straight into my pasta well. Don't worry if you guys get a little spillage from this, it's no big deal. I'll show you guys how to fix it. So now that I've got my egg into the well, with my fork, I'm just gonna gently whisk, right? And you can see on the sides, as we mix,
slowly grabbing.
it slowly incorporates more of that flour, and this mixture gets a little bit thicker, right? A little bit thicker, a little bit thicker.
Overhead cam shots, killer, Rob. Look at that, Chef Charlotte. It's
Sort of
like
laps up that flour, right? See how we're getting thicker, and it's sort of, it's pulling a little bit more. We're making a very loose dough.
so you still have your sides of
Yep.
your well, still very well defined. You're just kind of slowly grabbing and adding it
And
to
then
it.
as it gets a little bit thicker, you could just brush a little bit more of that flour in there. I love that
Something
sound.
about fresh pasta.
Right?
I feel like what you save on the back end in the cooking time is what you know, like when you're making regular pasta to cook it right. Fresh pasta
Yeah.
cooks so quick.
I don't know, I love the texture. I like to make it. It's sort of one of those things that's like, you know, oh look, we got a little spillage, no worries,
It's hard to beat the taste.
right? It does take a little bit of time. And like I said, it's okay if it spills out. All you do is you're just gonna take your hand or a bench scraper. All right. I'm gonna fold a little bit more in. See how thick it is?
There it is.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
It goes through that real wet stage. Sticking the fork, eventually it kind of peels off.
And this is where I just can't stand it anymore. And I just do this.
Yeah, go for it.
I can't even, right?
Get your hands
So
in there.
I get my bench scraper. This is like a handy tool. I love it.
Courtney
You can
asked,
also use a big spatula.
Chef, we got a question. Courtney
Okay.
asked, what level of sticky are you looking for?
I'm glad that you asked. So the level of sticky that we're looking for is that we want the dough to stick to our hands, but come away like as we knead it, right? So we don't want it to leave too much on our hand. And I'll show you. And we'll have to knead it a little bit.
Yeah, the more you need it, Courtney, the more it'll kind of
It's a good question, and I'll show you. So right now, it's not incorporated very well, and it's a little bit wet, right? But I'm gonna show you. And so we're gonna knead the pasta. And what I'm doing, if y'all can see, I've created a disc, and with my palm, so this too wet, right? All right, Courtney, we don't want that. I'm taking my hand and I'm pushing down in the center. I'm bringing the side back in on itself. I'm turning it, same thing, pushing, right? So our dough is starting to come together. We look a little crumbly. What do you think, Tompkins?
No, you're good. It'll absorb it all, and it's very similar to like kneading a
Kneading a dough,
baguette,
right?
kneading
So we're
dough.
still a
You're
little wet.
Kind of rolling it in. She's developing the gluten right now. It's going to start to get a little sticky, but then it'll start to as everything kind of hydrates, like the flour molecules and everything kind of hydrate. It'll start to get less sticky, and it'll start to come together in a nice little pliable ball that won't.
The gluten
Stick.
forms once, so you add the water into the dough, right, into the flour, and then the gluten forms, and the more that you work it, the more the gluten develops, right? And I compare the two, I compare it to like working out your muscles, right? The more
Yeah.
you work out, the stronger, like, and more dense.
You get yoked, right?
Right?
Gotta
You
get
get
yoked.
yoked.
That's how you do it.
All right, so
Or
if you
using
can
eggs.
see
I
what
had
I'm
to use
doing,
that.
so again, I'm pushing with my palm, pushing the center out, I'm pulling it back, quarter turn, same thing, right? So we're pulling the outside and bringing it in to the center.
And you can see as you're still rolling it around in that base flour, it's kind of still grabbing onto it and getting less
and the
sticky.
more that we roll this dough and knead this dough, the firmer it gets. And you really want to, knead for like a solid 7-10 minutes. All right. Is there anybody making dough with us like right now in like real time?
I think we're about to find out.
Okay.
Wait for it.
My right arm is definitely bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. So you can see how the dough is getting firmer and firmer and harder to work, right? But you can see how it's smoothing.
JJ's doing it.
All right? Okay. So we've got right now a really, really solid dough ball. Now, I'll probably do this one more time. What do y'all think? One more round of kneading?
Just for good measure. You know,
Just
you never
for good
can
measure.
be too sure.
Yes. Okay, so we have definitely developed these glutens, these proteins, right? Okay. Here it is. Look at that. Smooth like a baby's bum. All right. Now, I want to show the difference. So I made some dough ahead of time that's been rested. After we work this dough, we want to let it rest. And the reason why we want to let it rest is that it gives the opportunity for the dough and the gluten to relax, to sort of mellow out and smooth. Like right now, they're super tense, right? Just like when you work out, you're super tight, you're super tense. And then after that, you need a massage to sort of relax. So when we go to roll the dough, if we were to roll this dough right here, it wouldn't take a shape, right? It would just spring right back to this ball. And that's not what we want. We want to get these long, beautiful ribbons of pasta, right? So we're gonna let it rest. So I want to show you the brief difference, right?
Chef
really
Charlotte,
quickly.
Ann, who's watching on Facebook, is also making the pasta. So shout out to Ann. Way to go, Ann.
Hey, Ann. Okay, Ann, so how are you doing on the kneading? You probably want to knead for a couple more minutes until you get like 7 minutes. Ish. And if your dough is a little crumbly, just add a little more of those egg whites back into it, or you can do a little olive oil. All right, so I want to show you the difference. So, Ann, this is what you're going to look for. If I were to take my thumb and push this into this one, into this new dough, see how that springs back really quickly? This dough right here that I've let rest.
You can also see the color of it resting.
Look, and look how sticky, tackier it is, right? Look at this, right? If I were to push this one, it stays, right? So this dough is nice and relaxed and ready for us to roll it out, all right? So I'm gonna wrap this guy up.
And what do you like on the rest? I usually just throw mine in the fridge for like 20 minutes, but I know sometimes you say overnight's good. What do you like to do?
You can do it up to overnight. If you're gonna do it overnight, make sure it's in an airtight wrapped container just like that, and plastic wrap. Because if there's any air, it can oxidize and turn black, which is not necessarily what we want. Also, it may dry out a little bit. I leave mine out on the countertop for a couple hours, 30 minutes to an hour. It usually does right by me. I like to roll the dough when it's room temp. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dust my workspace a little bit. I'm gonna flatten this guy out, and I'm gonna cut this into 6 pie pieces, okay? So the recipe calls for, it's 6 servings. The dough makes 6 servings. So I'm just gonna go ahead.
So literally, really that means for us here, that makes 2 servings.
Makes 2
because I'll
servings,
have one
yes.
whole
All
serving,
right.
and then we'll split the rest. Chef, we have a question. Ann's making the dough. She said, what does she do if it's dry and tough? What should they do? Which way should she go? More liquid? Or just
Great,
add
so
a little more
if you saved any of your egg whites, it's a really great question. If you saved any of those egg whites, you can slowly add in more of those egg whites by either just pouring a little bit on there or wetting your hands with them. You can also pour a little bit of olive oil, maybe like a teaspoon at a time, into your dough, all right? Let me know how that goes.
Olive oil. I like olive oil in pasta.
Olive oil is great, and the addition of the fat is also going to inhibit any extra gluten development and make a really soft, tender pasta. Okay, so I've got these guys just like this, right? And now we're gonna get into the rolling stage. And I need a descriptor on how crumbly your dough is.
Ooh, there you go.
Like, is it sandy and not coming together at all? Or is it more like dry Play-Doh?
We'll find out.
Okay.
Stand by, chef.
Stand by. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I've floured my board, and I'm sort of making a triangle-ish shape with my pasta, with my dough. But what I'm looking for is more of a square or rectangular shape. So I'm just gonna fold that little tip in on itself to create this little
There are, as I'm watching you roll this by hand, chef, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I love pasta makers. I love the old school hand crank.
Yeah.
They're great. Now, we don't sell those at H-E-B, but I have a feeling as fast as our H-E-B buyers and our business runs, that by the time this class is over, maybe there'll be a pasta roller on the shelves for you to buy. Probably more coming, but the rolling pasta thing is great, but honestly, it just takes a little more elbow grease.
A little more elbow grease, right?
But doing what Charlotte's doing here, where she took a smaller piece to roll out, is much easier than trying to take a whole thing of dough like you would if you used a pasta roller.
But again, we've worked the dough, we developed the gluten, right? We're using we used a good flour for this, and we let it rest. It's at room temperature. And what we're doing is we're just rolling back and forth. We're rolling, right? Like we're rolling out pie dough. And what we're looking for is super thin. And the old saying is, I think you read the newsprint. You should be able to read the newsprint through your pasta.
Thin window.
Thin window. All right. And you can, so notice how when I roll it, it sort of springs back a little bit. And what that is that gluten development, right? So that means that we have that structure, and that's good. It also means it's gonna take me a little bit longer to roll this out. The other thing that I really like about this, the hand rolling, is that everybody can get a hunk of dough. Like if you're having friends over, you got kids.
Anne said she added egg whites to it. She said the dough's okay.
Okay.
Also, how long, would you repeat how long you want was the optimal time for your dough to
Minimum
rest?
7 minutes. Minimum 7 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes. But really, you want, when it starts to get real tight and you don't think that you can knead that dough anymore, you're good, right? All right, so see how I'm pulling this guy up and it's sort of sticking and stretching, but not tearing? That's the gluten development. And I think a lot of people have, they get confused when it comes to like the protein levels in flour and like how that relates to gluten. So the higher the protein content of the flour, the more gluten developing or gluten potential that flour has.
Hence bread flour for making rolls.
Exactly.
Yeast. That's why I love double O, because you make pizza with it historically, but you also make really soft, like chewy pizza, because you can knead it a little bit longer, still develop gluten, but it's not going to be like sourdough bread style where you're chewing on it for hours. You want a nice soft crumb.
I hope everybody's settled in because we have this much dough to roll out.
A lot of dough to roll out.
Just kidding. I rolled a whole bunch of this earlier, so you won't have to take a bathroom break.
So
I'm
rolling
show
out
you
by
this
hand,
piece. Okay, so look, you can start to see, can you see my hands through that?
The silhouette, yes.
See the silhouette? So we're starting to get there. That's a really good indicator of where we are, but I want to go a little bit thinner. What do you think?
Honestly, I love that thickness you're at right now. I'd be good to cook that.
Would?
Use that as lasagna. Heck yeah.
Oh, like for lasagna? 100%.
Yeah, rolling it out like that, folks, is so easy to do for if you have lasagna noodles, it's going to cook so much faster than lasagna noodles as well.
All right, so I'm running out of space, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this guy down just a little bit.
Cut that into some squares. You got your lasagna. Who's making lasagna?
Ooh.
Now I want lasagna. See, now I'm hungry.
All right.
Man, had to do pasta.
Okay, I'm going to flip it over. I'm really excited, you guys. This is like my favorite thing in the world.
I fasted all day for this. I want you to know that.
You what? You fasted?
I fasted all day for this. Yep, in preparation.
Yes. That means that he's excited, and then it means he trusts that I can make this pasta.
It also means that's going to be a single serving there, chef.
Well, don't worry. I made so much pasta. I don't even know what to do with it. Okay, I want y'all to see this. This is perfect. Do you see this? You can see my hands. Can y'all see the lines on the cutting board?
Yep.
This is good. I think this is absolutely great. I think this is totally wonderful. Should we do one just for one for safety? I think we should do one for safety. Okay.
I'm telling you, that's like you're ready. I'm ready for lasagna. Just need a bunch of stuff to assemble lasagna
beautiful.
sheets.
All right, so now I'm going to show you guys how we're going to fold this so that we can cut it. And I'm coming back to my semolina flour because I'm gonna dust this generously with semolina because I don't want it to stick. You could use some of the 00 flour, but again, it has that finer mesh or that finer, finer grain, and it needs less moisture, right, to activate and to soak in. So I want to get a coarser grain, right, because I want it to be like, to keep it to be non-stick.
It gives it a really pretty, and it kind of sticks to it too, and it just kind of gives it a prettier,
look at this.
Pasta feel.
So now we're gonna do. Tompkins taught me this. Are y'all ready? Okay. So I'm gonna teach y'all the pasta folding method. Okay. So we're gonna fold in the right side. Now we're gonna fold into the left side.
Let them kiss.
Let them kiss. Together. A little kiss. All right. Now we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna fold it again, like this, and like this. Give it a little dust. You could even fold it
again if you wanted to, Chef. Thinner.
I'm good this way. I'm gonna turn it this way. All right, so we started like, lengthwise, and we folded it halfway, like halfway. Now we're like this. Now we're gonna cut it. Okay, so in some of y'all may roll out your dough and you may get some like really uneven, like rough edges. It's okay. You rolled pasta from scratch. So if it looks like a sock, don't worry about it, right? You can always cut the edges if you want to make them perfect. Food should not be perfect.
Your sock will never taste as delicious as
yes, it came from your hands, it came from you, and there's no perfect person, so there's no perfect pasta. Actually, there is perfect pasta, just pasta. Anyway, so you can cut off those rough edges if you like, but I have more pasta in the pot means more pasta in my belly, so that makes me happy. At this point, y'all, we could cut our pasta any shape we want. So we could go like a thicker pappardelle. There you go, just like that. Or we could do maybe like a quarter inch. So I'm gonna go kind of thinner. So we'll do like what, half an inch?
I like fresh pasta. I prefer linguine. I don't know why. I don't mind fettuccine, but I like the linguine style. Like a little bit bigger than spaghetti, a little bit smaller than fettuccine.
Well, we're gonna do sort of in between a fettuccine and a pappardelle.
I'm okay with that. Hey, it's your.
All right, and so when we cut,
boss.
I just go straight down. I don't want to do a sawing motion. Boop, boop. That's the official sound that it makes when you cut it.
That's right, when you cut it correctly. Right? Yeah, because you don't want to saw it and make those layers all blend together.
So you can see right here where I don't have these even edges. Again, you could always cut that off, but it's perfectly imperfect, and I'm here for it. And then I just take this little guy like this, and watch this. Look. So what I did is I just slid my knife underneath, and then all my pasta unrolls. I wanted it to be more dramatic, guys, but.
Sorry, it means your pasta's ready to cook.
Look, boop.
Just folds over.
Look at this. Look at this.
Noodles.
It's perfectly dusted with all that semolina flour. It looks like little snow caps on there. I love it. But you want to make sure that you unravel your dough relatively quickly because you don't want it to stick together. Look at that.
Perfect pasta.
Perfect pasta. I'm really proud of myself.
And again, the cook time on that fresh pasta is literally probably going to be like 3 minutes.
So now at this point, what you would do if you're going to continue on to roll out this dough, what you're going to do is you're going to lay this on a sheet pan, or you could even take a wooden spoon, just like this. I'm going to show you right up here, okay, guys? You would take a wooden spoon, you would put a bag of flour or something heavy on this end, and you would drape these pasta noodles over the side like this so that they would hang over the counter, and then they would dry. Or you can just put them on a really, really, really
some butcher swine across your kitchen and make a big pasta, like make it everywhere.
We've actually hung them from the light fixtures in my kitchen. You can go to my Instagram page and see it.
Step stool thing, anything.
So I didn't cut those very well, but that's all right. So look, we just have these really pretty little noodles. All right, and I've got some over here. Y'all want me to show y'all, you want to see the fold one more time, that fold and cut? I'll show that one more time. I've got one over here.
Rolled out, ready to go.
Rolled out, ready to go.
You know, it's a great way to kind of show. So you roll up the same way. I do the demo over again.
So see this one? This one's a little more ragged, right? This one, like, I didn't do so well.
It's got a little more time.
And you can see how this one stuck just slightly. All right. I say ragged, it's more rustic. Let's use the right words. All right.
I mean, it's pasta, right?
Again, we're just gonna fold this guy like this. Fold them in, fold the other side in, let them kiss, fold it again, like that, fold it again.
We used to go as tight as possible.
The what?
We used to go really, really tight and cut them super duper long.
Again, so we have those uneven edges. If y'all want to see what that looks like, all we would do is just cut them off like that, right? Ta-da. And then, boop. All right, are y'all ready to I have some pasta that I cut earlier. Y'all want to cook this stuff? Is my water boiling over there? Oh, thanks for looking, Tompkins. Is my water boiling over there?
It's been boiling for the last 30 minutes, Chef. I got you covered. I was watching it the whole time. It's been boiling the whole time in that fantastic kitchen and table pot.
All right. We'll do our little thing again. Let's see. Oh, these are a little stuck.
We had a great question. I'm sorry. I was
go ahead.
You were attending to the chat, and they said cook fresh or dry and then cook. Doesn't really matter,
Doesn't matter. Again, I want to make sure, if you're going to dry the pasta, make sure that it has plenty of air and that the nests aren't too thick, because what can happen is the same way the dough will oxidize, so will the pasta. It won't dry fast enough. So you can put it over your rolling pin and then cook it later. And I actually, funny story, look how long this guy is. Yes.
Yeah, I love those.
I have some dried pasta in my car right now. That's laying
fresh, or you just keep it in the back in case of emergencies?
Just in case, right? Okay.
You're like, Chef Charlotte, do you have a jack or perhaps something I could jumpstart my car with? You're like, I don't, but I do have
some fresh dried pasta in my car. All right, so this is the part where you need you get your kids involved to gingerly unwrap the pasta, all right?
And even if you dry it, it's still gonna cook faster than a hard dried pasta, which is still a fantastic.
I do believe that, aren't most dried, imported pastas made from 100% durum wheat?
Durum and water, yep, durum wheat and water. And that's where I think the flavor comes in of fresh pasta. If you've ever had fresh pasta at a restaurant, if you've ever made it, the egg and the yolk with that same pasta is just, you can't beat it. It's just such a great flavor.
Here we go. These are really long. Okay, I want you to see the difference here, right? Okay, so this one is much lighter. This is a dough that I made at home with a different egg yolk and actually a different semolina flour. And look at the difference, the yellow color. It's crazy.
Eggs are crazy.
Eggs are crazy, right? All right, so I also have some over there that we've already done. I'm gonna grab those out of the fridge.
So again, it's
I don't want to waste it. I want to undo all of them. I'm sorry, I have to undo all of them because it's too good.
When you think about so at home right now, if you're cooking along, there's a few people doing it. Elena's doing it, JJ's doing it, Anne's doing it. There's some folks that are following along with the pasta. The great thing about this is that whether we just showed you as she was kind of rolling it out before she cut it, you can use that same sheet to make lasagna. And if you don't want to roll it super thick, or hey, if your wrist or whatever are getting really sore, you can roll out a thicker noodle for lasagna, and it's still a great way to do it. I love fresh noodles for lasagna. Same. But it's also just a really simple trick and technique to add to your culinary toolbook, because when you start cooking for people, or as we're getting back to entertaining and doing all that stuff, it's just a really kind of fun thing to do to impress your guests with.
I rolled out so much pasta. I had the best time doing it. So here's another sheet that I have. I could dry this out. I'm going to send that home with Tompkins so that he can make his
delicioso
lasagna. All right, so here's some threads or noodles that I've cut earlier. And I'm going to bring these over here and get these guys ready to boil.
Honestly, it's funny because having cooked in Italian restaurants before, fresh pasta is also how you save money, because the dough and the eggs are so cheap compared to what you pay for imported pasta.
We're literally rolling out money
making fresh pasta.
All right, Tompkins, you said we want to
salt it like the sea. Now, not the Dead Sea, just the sea. The Dead Sea's okay. I'm okay with the Dead Sea, but it needs to taste salty, because that way the more salt you have in the pasta water, the less salt you need to add in your overall sauce, which is where those really good San Marzano tomatoes and things like that, where they're real fresh and sweet, you get the salt in the pasta, so everything kind of balances really well.
I'm gonna let that come to a super rolling boil, and while that's happening, I'm going to make our pesto, because I want to have that ready when we...
I think this is a great summer
when we get ready for when our pasta comes out. Okay, so originally Pesto was made in a mortar and pestle. Alas, we don't need that anymore. We have a blender.
Modern technology is a fantastic
Modern
thing.
technology, it's a heck of a thing. All right, so to my pesto, very easy. I'm gonna add 1 moderate clove
Oh, just one, huh?
of garlic.
That's fine.
Yes, Tompkins, this is for me, and I like moderate garlic.
It's okay. I put a post up on Instagram saying for all the vampires that come to your house because you're not a big fan of garlic, so that's where they're gonna all come.
Well, I mean,
They don't come to my house.
if this was the vampire apocalypse, everyone go to Tompkins' house because we'd be safe because he uses so much.
The
so much
non-threatening
garlic.
teen vampire style,
Right,
not
okay.
like the this is a
Okay.
normal
All right.
San Antonio. for
So
crying out loud.
traditional pesto is like if we were making like a pesto genovese, right? So from like a Genoa style like pesto, it would be the pine nuts, the basil, a certain amount of acid, vinegar, and it would be very like
Yeah, very traditional.
very
like,
traditional,
it
always the
sticks
same,
with
right?
the
I'm
home-style
using a
recipe.
regular arugula because I love arugula. Like I love the peppery, like bitter note that happens. I love like with a little bit of basil to enhance it. I love the. I'm using pistachios instead of
I'm a big fan instead of the pinon.
pine instead of the
pine
pinon
nuts.
instead of pine nuts. I like the buttery note or like the softness. Okay, do you notice what I did over here? You didn't tell me. I turned on
happened?
the wrong burner.
Did you?
Yeah, I was
Well,
like,
it's
why?
fresh pasta, so it's going to be probably done in a
Turned
second
on the
anyway.
total wrong
That's all right.
burner over there. All right, so I'm adding about a 1/4 cup of these pistachios. I love pistachios. They have a really nice buttery mouthfeel flavor. I love it. I'm gonna use about,
I'm a big fan as well. I'm a
use
big fan of, honestly, any pesto. I think
Yeah.
you can really use any nut, whether it's pumpkin
Yeah.
seeds, walnuts, like pecans, like you can really
whatever the
do-
flavor is that you're looking for in that.
Really flavor it in different ways.
I'm gonna do some lemon zest. This is so fresh for summertime. I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had
Things
a
I don't-
rabbit
things
in
I
a
don't
hat.
say a
No?
lot.
Okay. Nobody?
Wish I was a little taller.
Showing my age there? All right.
No, that's a good song. I believe it's
Little-
Skilo. What do I win? I got the
Tell
song
him
right.
what he won. You get to do all
And
my
now
dishes.
name that tune for a.
All right. Little lemon juice in there. You like a little lemon juice, a lot of lemon juice, homie.
I'm a big acid fan.
You are.
So I'd say go with a lot.
I like to finish a lot of stuff with acid. Like acid brightens everything. It just
It does.
elevates everything a little bit. All right. so
Courtney
some
says
lemon-
she sang that song with you. I just want to say, if you're with us for the live grilling event we did, I really tried to give away a Volvo. Some point,
You
I'm
did
gonna
try to give away my
Charlotte's
car.
Volvo.
All right. So I am going to add in a
Figure out
little
a
bit of
contest.
olive oil to get us started here. And I haven't, if you notice, I haven't added in my basil yet. And I'm not going to do that till the end. I'm going to get this guy started.
Fresh green.
Add in some more.
Some of that Castelvetrano first cold press unfiltered olive oil.
All right, come on, you.
So I like this trick of adding the basil at the end. I love the reasoning why as well.
All right.
When you're using a blender or you're doing anything with friction like a food processor, there's a chance that you're going to kind of muddy the herbs or make them, like you get them warm, right? It gets warm. And so I
Yes.
love this trick. Will you share why you're going to do this?
Why
this
I have
trick?
the ice? Okay, so reason number one why I didn't add in, I should have opened this before, but the reason why I didn't add in my basil yet is that basil is really finicky, right? It's very finicky to temperature and it oxidizes really quickly. So if you've ever noticed that you've left basil sitting out on the countertop and it turns black, or you put it in the refrigerator and too far back in the refrigerator,
Yep.
it turns black,
cold.
right? Well, anytime you use the blender to make anything, to blend anything, the shear causes like friction, right? And friction causes heat. And it essentially it starts to cook whatever is in that blender. So by adding a little bit of ice to our blender and to our pesto, what we're doing is we are dropping the temperature and we're also at the same time helping to emulsify the dish. So I'm just gonna put in like,
Keeps the color a little fresher too.
oh yeah, we get that beautiful like vibrant chlorophyll freshness. So I'm adding like 2 ice cubes. Let's add 2 or 3 more till I got some melty cubes. We're gonna put the lid back on just till we get that. Perfect, just till it comes together. I'm gonna do a little salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper to taste.
Now, I didn't add any
to go.
cheese to this recipe, so there's no cheese in our pesto.
Which is good,
if
'cause
you
it's
guys,
vegan.
I saved the cheese for later, like to put on top. But the butteriness from that pistachio, you don't need the cheese. Perfect. That looks great. I'm gonna do a quick little cleanup, and we are gonna put this pasta into.
It is good. I love green lasagnas too with the ricotta cheese. We use a basil instead of a tomato sauce. It's real fresh for summertime. You can pack a
Alright.
bunch of spinach
How's
in there.
my cake?
Let it all wilt down.
Do you have a shot back there? What?
Look at that bad boy.
Okay, we're good. Okay, all right. Main event
Are we
here.
close? Do you need my toothpick, chef?
Not yet, not
What
yet.
can I do?
Okay, rolling boil, salted like the ocean, fresh pasta, right here, kind of laid out. You can see all of that beautiful semolina
Should we
flour
time
on it.
I'm going to time it, chef. I'm
That
gonna do
cake
3 minutes.
smells so good.
I
Okay,
just caught a whiff of it
so
this
what we're gonna
morning.
do, just like when you cook dried pasta, you want a giant pot of water, and you want all of those, like all the noodles to swim freely, right? So I'm gonna dump all this in here. If you want to do it in batches because it makes you feel safer, no problem, you can do it, but I don't think you need to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all this
Go
delicious
for the gusto.
stuff, I'm gonna put it into my boiling water.
What I love about, if you're not going to use, I'm going to see, obviously you're going to do something different with the fresh pesto, which you'll explain to folks, but honestly, cooking fresh pasta is much more starch in it. So if you're going to make like a cacio e pepe or like a
Yes.
tomato sauce, that starch that's on there for the fresh pasta is really, really good for thickening those sauces and just giving it a lot of great flavor.
Anytime you boil pasta, reserve a cup of the pasta water always, because if you're going to do a sauce or whatever, it's great to thicken that. As soon as you drop that pasta into the pasta water, give it a stir, just like you would if you were like cooking the dry pasta. Also, bring it back up to a boil. The only way to tell if pasta is done,
Oh wait, I know.
spell this
Throw it against the wall.
false.
Stick it against the wall. No? Oh man.
So you probably have like little stains all over your like freshly painted kitchen.
Yeah, but not from just the pasta.
It's actually just
just throw everything in the wall.
you have to taste it. You have to put it in your mouth and you have to
You do.
taste it, right? People say, oh, when it floats, it's ready, but like truly to really know, like floating is a good visual cue, but you want to bite into it. If you were gonna take like dry pasta and you cooked it, you would take out that piece of pasta, you'd take a bite out of it, and then you would notice on the inside, that cross section, there would be a really, really, really tiny white dot. Uh-oh, where were you on that
Blow
one,
on it, chef.
Tompkins?
Look
Where
it
were
out.
you on that one, Tompkins?
So when I looked up, you can ask a food anthropologist like these
you
questions.
See, he just hung me out to dry. He hung me out to
said, "Blow it."
boil
I said,
over
The,
with friends like you.
they asked, like when you ask who made up the throw the pasta at the wall, like the stick, and all it said was one answer, just said angry Italian grandmas. So,
I was like somebody's
somebody was
boss
mad.
in a cube farm. How did you come up with this? Well, we're just gonna throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
Angry Italian grandma was like, no.
All right, so I'm gonna keep going, stir it occasionally. Look, you can even see, can you see the color differences in there?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's amazing. So the different types of eggs that you use, the different type of flour that you use kind of changes the color. It's crazy.
I'm so hungry right now.
Oh, you have a big treat. All right.
I'm gonna be honest, I can smell the pasta, but what I can also smell in the background, if you're cooking this at home,
That beautiful cake.
is sweet olive oil is all I smell. It's like a sweet, like
Is anybody making the cake out there?
Who's making the cake? Who's doing it all?
Yeah.
I know somebody is. JJ probably, are you? Elena? I bet Ann is. I bet Ann's going,
Okay.
she's all in on this. I bet she's got everything going.
All right.
And what you should have, and what everybody should have, is a glass of
Done.
wine in one hand
Done.
while you're cooking.
All right. I'm taking this. This is done. This is done. I'm taking
So
this
that,
over.
how fast was that, right? Super fast.
Super fast. All right. It's got a little bit of bite to it. It's perfect. I'm taking this over to the sink. I'm going to drain it. At this point, I would reserve some pasta water, right?
Reserve
So if I
pasta
was going to
water.
do that cacio e pepe, or like a go directly to a pan.
Or if you need a little extra
But-
liquid in the sauce.
I can't see. I can't see.
Steam, I
But
see lots
I'm not.
of
I'm
steam.
draining it all. Okay. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a no-no. All right.
A non-traditional?
Again, if I was taking this pasta to the skillet, to the pan, like to be sauced, I wouldn't rinse it. I would leave it just as it is because I want all that extra starch to help thicken that beautiful sauce and help, like, it creates a sheen. But because I'm going to a separate bowl and I'm gonna sauce with a cooler, like room temperature sauce, I don't want the pasta to continue to cook, and I wanna drop the temperature, and I don't want it to stick together. So I'm gonna add a little bit of water. I'm gonna shake my
Just to
pasta
kind of
a
rinse
little
some
bit.
of that off so it's not so sticky, right?
Just gonna give it the slightest of rinses.
All right, Chef Ashley on Facebook, who's watching on Facebook, is making the cake.
Okay.
And we're gonna go to her house afterwards because that's all I want to eat for dinner is she's doing just the cake, so I'm good on that.
Okay. All right, so I just give it a quick rinse because I want to stop that cooking process, drop the temp. I don't want those things to stick. I'm gonna do the obligatory colander
Shake.
Also,
Anne is making the cake as well. Anne is
Yes.
too, I knew it. Anne, do you have a glass of Caber Charda Zinfandel?
And you have the capabilities of posting a picture of what you're doing because we'd love to see it. All right, I'm bringing my pasta back over here. I'm doing it in the pan. I'm gonna get my bowl. All right, you guys.
Sandy and Anne are making everything.
I love it. Try out my bowl.
All we need, Sandy and Anne, is just throw your address up there on the chat.
Yep.
We'll all head over. We'll all have a little cake. I need a special portion set aside for me. I like a bigger portion of pasta.
That's so good. It's so like refreshing and like summery. All right, into my bowl. In goes my nudes.
So we've got a room temperature. We've cooled down our pesto. The pesto has a little ice cube added to it
Yep.
to keep the color right, bright and bright. You've kind of rinsed off, so the pasta's still hot. I see steam.
Still hot. Do
but
not
it's
stick your hand into that hot pasta in that colander. It came out of a boiling pot. All right, so like
212
shake
degrees,
it.
folks.
Yeah. All right, so now I'm gonna add in my pesto.
A little pesto. Rob, get out of town with the overhead shot.
I know, right?
The green pasta. So pretty.
What? Okay. I'm using tongs with like silicone on them. Like, I don't think you really you need to, but I just feel like it's more respectful and delicate for the pasta.
Brissa asked a great question. She said, will this be recorded? I'm so behind still. So
Okay,
don't worry
tell me-
about being
okay.
behind. Drink a little wine, go slow. Yes, it'll be recorded. You can watch this over and over and over again.
Over and over and over again.
But we can back up. So I know sometimes it takes a little time. Go slow, go at your own pace.
Yes.
And Brissa, if I'm being honest, if you're cooking with wine, and I mean putting the wine in you, it can sometimes slow me down as well. So don't feel bad.
All right, so we're gonna plate up this pasta really quick. We're gonna put it on this beautiful dish, and we're gonna garnish this. Do y'all want cheese or no cheese?
It's my favorite plate. Yes, please. Either way.
Okay.
Cheese. JJ says cheese.
Always. Just gonna put all this. It smells like
A fresh garden.
like a fresh garden, fresh cut grass. Like, I absolutely adore what's happening right here. All right, in my house, Parmigiano Reggiano is king. How do you feel about that?
The only thing we disagree on, I'm a Pecorino
Really?
Romano guy.
I feel like
I'm
I
not-
lost the cheese. I had the cheese.
Pecorino
Who
Romano,
moved my
probably
cheese?
because I may have stolen it from you, but
I
I
do
give it
have
back.
this.
Is there cheese right there? Does that work?
I
Oh, you
lost
want
my
to use the
cheese.
fresh brick.
I did. I lost it, chef. Ah, no, I found it. I'm just a mess over here. Ha ha. Okay, here we go.
I didn't want to say maybe you lost it because I do have a tendency to five-finger discount things I like
He
that
does.
cheese.
Before
They
we
may
leave
disappear
every day,
on
we
their
have to
own.
check his pockets.
Always.
Okay, how's everybody doing in pasta world? Any questions? I got some time.
I think we're good. I think
Everybody's
we're all
good?
waiting for you to just generously top the pasta
Generously top it.
and then stick a toothpick in the cake to see where we're at.
Okay.
I'm getting very anxious about that, chef. Very anxious about the cake.
Ooh, I'm using a cheese grater because I want big,
Oh, big
fat
pieces of shaved
pieces
cheese.
of shaved parm. We're gonna. Oh, we got a big chunk there. That's gonna go to my mouth. Doo-doo. Just like that. We're gonna do some fresh basil. You want a little fresh basil on there?
Perfect. Yeah, always.
And then we're gonna grab that cake. You know what? I'm gonna use this from our garden. I'm gonna use some of this
From our basil plants.
from our basil plants. I love it.
I can't have basil plants because I just use them all and I'm like, oh great, I just decimated the crop and now it's gonna die. I'm like,
Well, then
cool.
you should
So that's
have
why I
two.
just buy it fresh at H-E-B versus
Okay.
buying the plants because I feel bad when I do that. Fresh lemons asked to highlight all those notes.
Yes.
Fresh lemons,
Okay.
summertime.
Ah, it smells so good. gonna put that right there.
Beautiful.
Now we're gonna check on our cake. My towels.
Cake is ready. I hope you made 2 cakes, Chef.
Oh my gosh. Y'all, look at this.
I only say that because the first piece is probably going to get a big handful of me just ripping it off and not cutting it pretty.
Look at that. Yes.
Great question. We had a question. Good veggies to add to pasta. Courtney, want to know what would be good additions? I think anything fresh zucchini chopped or sliced.
So you could even do
Thin slice,
spiralized
toss.
zucchini mixed up in there, right? So you can cut some calories, add some green stuff. Bell peppers would be good, cherry tomatoes. This is so perfect. This is such a perfect cake. I'm gonna let this sit and cool a little bit, but what I did make,
I love the color of that olive oil.
I made one ahead of time so y'all could see it. So we're gonna plate this guy right here.
And that, if you're asking, good question, is a kitchen and table oven rack, which is fantastic, and it's good for making guacamole
He's
as well.
not as beautiful as the other one, but he's still beautiful in his own right. Just like pasta, it was handmade. All right, we're gonna cut this guy open. You ready?
Look at that crust. I feel like that's what an olive oil cake should look like, right?
Move this out of the way.
One layer.
So you can see some of those flecks of the zest. So the recipe says that it's 6 servings, but
Those are more just guidelines.
I'm sorry,
I feel
12
like.
servings. Clearly, you know where I am with this. All right.
I feel like that, in all honesty, 4 servings. That's
Look at
just
that.
my.
This has like the freshest of fresh.
Because you're going to have a piece to taste it, right, while it's warm. And then you're going to go back for like 2 more pieces once it's cooled. So 4 servings, maybe? 3?
Here, Tompkins, can you make it over here? You can have this. Can you make it?
I will.
Okay. Bring that mic over here. I got
Don't break
this
the
for
4th
you.
wall. Don't break the 4th wall.
Nah, everybody
You're gonna
knows
set
you're
people to
here.
the
There
fourth
you go,
wall.
everyone. Everyone say hi to Tompkins. All right. Take this cake just like this.
Bro,
Right?
you know what I love about the cake besides me chewing it? Is the fact that it has all the zest in there.
It's the best. Now, what I'm gonna do, so to serve this, what would be really great is you could do a little bit of like mascarpone, vanilla ice cream, but honestly, if you ask me, a little bit of the lemon olive oil on top, so for a little bit of that, like just that zest, that,
It's like an Italian style dulce de leche.
ooh, yeah,
Or
and then we're
was it
gonna
tres
put
leches? We just let it soak in.
a little bit of strawberry.
Yeah, that little piece isn't going to cut it.
Well,
Sorry, as I'm
you can have
chewing
a
off
giant
camera.
piece if you like. All right. You want to do a little basil on this guy?
For
Can
sure.
I use my basil from my plant again? I love it.
And maybe like a little bit of softly whipped, like soft peaks whipped cream, just like drizzled over the top.
Ooh.
Come on.
I have some mascarpone if y'all are interested, but I don't know. I'm kind of feeling like this is so beautiful, just like this. This
I think
piece
it's
is for
perfect.
me.
It's summertime, right?
We could even put a little bit of that aged balsamic. But look at that.
Also delicious. Complement those strawberries really well.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect, like summertime meal. You made fresh pasta. We did it in, I mean, it'll take a little bit longer than 45 minutes because you gotta let that dough rest, but this is, start the dough today and then tomorrow you could use it, either way, whatever. Very easy, we're done. I'm glad you guys chose to spend some time with us. Really quickly though, I wanna check in with some of our friends who are making pasta dough. How is everybody feeling? Has anyone got to the cut stage? Does everybody feel like
They're
their dough
still
is
going.
rested?
Brissa is drinking wine.
Okay,
She said she was a little behind, but I think she's in good hands.
Okay.
She knows what she's doing.
right?
She got all the tools.
Okay, so just a couple of notes for you guys when you start to cut that pasta. Remember what we're looking for is when we push our thumb into our dough, that we still have that indentation, right? That means our dough has rested long enough and it's ready to go.
Anne would post a picture on Facebook, but Facebook won't let her. So shame on that.
Okay, well, maybe
Hey, you know
one
what,
day
Ann?
we'll catch up with
In
the technology.
spirit, we know exactly
but
what it
I'm
looks
very
like.
glad y'all came. Like Scott said, if you missed anything, you could always check this out
Yeah.
at youtube.com.
Watch
slash
all your favorite episodes over and over, and
right,
over again.
/HEB. And if you're curious about the things to come, you can always go to HEB.com/classes. I am so glad that you guys chose to spend this hour with us. Have a great evening.
Be blessed. See you next time.